So going into the 2025 NFL draft, the 49ers have two biggest needs: edge rusher and offensive tackle. You could, if you want to kind of open it up more, offensive lineman or defensive lineman, whether it's interior or, a edge rusher or an offensive tackle, those are your two biggest needs going into this draft. However, there is a belief within the 49ers organization that if they don't feel the guy that they want to pick at 11 is available for them at pick 11, they could go with a skill position player, which then opens up the talk if the 49ers should draft Tyler Warren, the Penn State Nittany Lion tight end, at pick 11. Could they pull a wild card here and draft Tyler Warren? Look, everything about Tyler Warren screams prototype tight end in the NFL. He reminds me a lot of Brock Bowers going into or coming out of this draft. Great athleticism, good with the ball in his hands. He gets a lot of yards after the catch. Did that at Penn State. He's a quality vertical threat. He does lack run blocking, which is probably a turnoff for Kyle Shanahan within this offense, because Kyle Shanahan uses these tight ends as extra offensive linemen. He's done it with Kittle since Kittle was drafted. So I mean, I think the biggest thing with Warren, though, he's great in zone coverage. He can find space in zone coverage. And again, I mean, he uses his athleticism and his long stride to get yards after catch, which it fits the 49ers type of tight end, right? But again, the run blocking is a concern for sure. And that could be enough to turn off Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at drafting him here at pick 11. However, obviously, if they take Warren here, they will finally find an answer behind George Kittle. They haven't been able to find a good second option at tight end, really since Kittle was drafted. They've did the Jordan Matthews experiment. That didn't work. They've drafted guys, Braden Willis, Cameron Latu. I mean, none of these guys panned out for the Niners as the backup tight end to George Kittle. And obviously, if you take Tyler Warren here, I think it's safe to say that you have found your answer at tight end number 2. Look, I mean, there are too many quality options for the 49ers on offensive line and defensive line that are going to be much bigger needs to fill than drafting a guy like Tyler Warren at pick 11. I get that he's the best tight end in this draft class. I get that he's one of the better tight end prospects coming out of the draft, probably since Brock Bowers last year, which, it's only been 1 year. But, he's got the buzz that Brock Bowers had coming out of the draft last year. But look, at the end of the day, the 49ers desperately need defensive tackle help. They desperately need, a long-term edge rusher to pair opposite of Nick Bosa. They desperately need, a center, an offensive guard, an offensive tackle. They have many more needs here at pick 11 than to draft a tight end. And to me, you can't draft a tight end here. You can't draft a skill position player here. You got to go with one of the bigger needs. And again, one of those bigger needs, offensive line or defensive line. Point blank, period. Like, you can't draft a skill position player just because you have a draft crush on him and just because you think he's going to be good in the future, and then ignore two of the bigger needs on the roster on the offensive line and defensive line. So again, I think, Tyler Warren in this offense would be fun. I think it would definitely change the way that the Niners play offensively in terms of where they're playing the tight ends. One report I seen suggested that the 49ers could play Tyler Warren in the slot receiver-esque role, kind of like how the Bills have used Dalton Kincaid at times. And obviously, that would be electric. That would be super fun to watch. To me, it fills a hole that San Francisco has failed to fill for quite some time at backup tight end. But you have a solidified tight end in George Kittle, and it's not time to draft a tight end in the top 11 picks. Like, Kittle's got a lot of football ahead of him. You need to draft a long-term answer at tackle before you think about drafting a skill position player. And by tackle, I mean offensive tackle. You also need to fill the void of an edge rusher. Leonard Floyd's likely not going to be back. The 49ers are likely to release him this offseason, and in that regard, you have to figure out who is going to be your guy opposite of Nick Bosa. Not only that, but they're expected to release Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave, with his departure, there's going to be yet another position to fill, which is defensive tackle, which I've seen Walter Nolan, Mason Graham being linked to the Niners at pick 11. I think Mason Graham goes before. I think Mason Graham will go before the 49ers pick. However, you guys get the point. Like, they need edge rushers and they need interior defensive line help. And again, to me, drafting a tight end here, going skill position here when you have much bigger needs to fill, just does not make sense. If this happens, it's got to be Kyle Shanahan making the picks, because there's no way that John Lynch wants to draft a guy like Tyler Warren more than he wants to draft a guy like Mike Green, of Marshall, Mikael Williams, Kelvin Banks Jr., Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, and some of those guys that I just listed off will likely be gone before the 49ers pick, but you guys get the point. Like, there's no way that John Lynch is okay with taking a guy like Tyler Warren at a skill position over one of the bigger 49er needs on the defensive line and on the offensive line. So let me know what you guys think of this in the comments down below. I mean, should the 49ers draft? Could they at least consider drafting Tyler Warren here? I think they probably already are considering it. I think they know, though, a smarter thing to do is fill a bigger need, and that's not a tight end. It's not a running back. It's an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. So let me know what you guys think of this in the comments down below. As always, go Niners, and I'll see you guys in the next one.